Hello, and welcome to everyone. This is the DGH News and Information Network USVI News Update for June 30, 2025. In today's news, the 36th Legislature of the Virgin Islands is set to convene today in the Earl B. Otley Legislative Hall on St. Thomas for a significant session of the Committee on Budget, Appropriations, and Finance. The primary agenda item is the commencement of hearings on the fiscal year 2026 budget, a critical process that will determine the financial trajectory of the territory for the upcoming year. Lawmakers will receive and scrutinize budget proposals from various government departments and agencies, questioning officials on their spending plans and priorities. In addition to the budget review, the committee is scheduled to deliberate on several impactful bills. One notable piece of legislation, Bill No. 36-0079, proposes a mandate for territorial hospitals to offer paternity testing services upon request. This measure aims to streamline the process for establishing paternity, which has significant implications for child support, custody, and inheritance matters. Another key proposal, Bill No. 36-0003, seeks to amend the Virgin Islands Code to establish more rigorous standards and required services for nursing homes and assisted living facilities, addressing concerns about the quality of care for the territory's elderly population. Furthermore, the committee will confront pressing environmental issues, specifically the challenges posed by the discharge of minimally processed wastewater into public areas and brine into the territory's bays. This discussion is expected to provide a comprehensive overview of the immediate and long-term public health and environmental risks associated with current waste management practices. The session will also feature a robust discussion on the persistent issue of homeownership in the Virgin Islands, with testimony expected from housing and finance authorities on topics ranging from high construction costs and restrictive zoning laws to the availability of financing for prospective homeowners. The outcomes of these hearings will undoubtedly have far-reaching consequences for the residents of the Virgin Islands. The budget allocations will directly impact the level of government services, while the proposed legislation could bring about substantial changes in healthcare, elder care, and environmental protection. The very breadth of the topics on the agenda highlights the complex and interconnected challenges facing the territory. Will the proposed measures be sufficient to address these long-standing issues, or are they merely incremental steps in a much longer journey toward sustainable solutions? The testimony and debates in the coming days will be crucial in shaping the future landscape of the Virgin Islands. Key points. The Senate Committee on Budget, Appropriations, and Finance will begin hearings for the fiscal year 2026 budget on June 30, 2025. Legislation to mandate paternity testing in hospitals and to enhance regulations for nursing homes will be considered. Environmental concerns, particularly wastewater and brine discharge, are on the legislative agenda. The committee will also address challenges to homeownership, including costs and financing. Why it matters. This legislative session will set the financial and social policy priorities for the U.S. Virgin Islands, impacting everything from healthcare and elder care to environmental safety and the housing market. The vibrant culinary traditions of St. John were on full display this past Saturday as the island hosted its annual food fair. The event, a precursor to the 2025 St. John celebration, drew a large and enthusiastic crowd of locals and visitors to the festival village. Attendees were treated to a sensory feast, with a wide array of traditional and contemporary Caribbean dishes available from numerous vendors. The air was filled with the enticing aromas of local favorites such as Johnny Cakes, Pates, and Callaloo, alongside freshly grilled fish and roasted meats. For those with sweet tooth, there was no shortage of options, including coconut tarts, guava berry pie, and a variety of other homemade pastries and candies. The food fair is not just an opportunity to indulge in delicious food. It is a celebration of the island's rich cultural heritage, with many of the recipes passed through generations. Beyond the food, the event served as a lively social gathering, bringing together the St. John community in a festive atmosphere. It marks a key moment in the lead-up to the island's annual celebration, building excitement for the parades, music, and other cultural events that are still to come. The success of the food fair underscores the importance of these traditions in maintaining the cultural fabric of the Virgin Islands. As we celebrate these culinary traditions, it also raises questions about the future of local food production and sustainability in the Virgin Islands. How can we better support our local farmers and fishers to ensure that these cherished ingredients remain readily available? And as the tastes of the population evolve, how do we encourage innovation in our local cuisine while still honoring the recipes of the past? The food fair is a joyful occasion, but it also serves as a reminder of the need to protect and nurture the agricultural and cultural resources that make such events possible. Key points. The annual St. John Food Fair was held on Saturday, June 29, 2025, as part of the lead-up to the 2025 St. John celebration. The event featured a wide variety of traditional Virgin Islands and Caribbean cuisine. Large crowds of residents and tourists attended the popular cultural event. The food fair is a significant cultural touchstone for the St. John community. Why it matters. The St. John Food Fair is a vital celebration of local culture and cuisine, playing a key role in the island's annual festivities and the preservation of its heritage. The Virgin Islands Office of Disaster Recovery has released updated figures on the status of the Envision Tomorrow Homeowner Rehabilitation and Reconstruction Program, indicating steady progress in the ongoing effort to rebuild homes damaged by the hurricanes of 2017. As of June 30, 2025, the program has 109 homes currently under construction across the territory, with 59 homes having been fully completed and returned to their owners. This initiative represents a cornerstone of the territory's long-term recovery, addressing the critical need for safe and resilient housing for residents who lost their homes in the devastating storms. The program utilizes federal disaster recovery funds to repair or completely rebuild single-family homes, prioritizing low to moderate-income families, the elderly, and residents with disabilities. The latest statistics reflect the continued commitment to navigating the complex landscape of disaster recovery, from initial assessments and environmental reviews to the final phases of construction. While the numbers show tangible progress, they also highlight the significant amount of work that needs to be done. The pace of reconstruction has been a source of both hope and frustration for many residents still awaiting assistance. The process is fraught with challenges, including supply chain disruptions, labor shortages, and the intricate requirements of federal funding programs. The slow but steady advancement in home reconstruction begs a broader question about the territory's overall resilience to future storms. Are the new and repaired homes being built to a standard that can withstand the next major hurricane? Furthermore, what lessons have been learned from this lengthy recovery process that can be applied to streamline future disaster response and rebuilding efforts? The completion of each home is a victory for a family and the community, but the larger goal must be to create a more robust and prepared Virgin Islands. Key points. The Envision Tomorrow housing program has 109 homes in active construction as of June 30, 2025. 59 homes have been completed and are now reoccupied by their owners. The program is a key component of the territory's recovery from the 2017 hurricanes. Challenges such as supply chain issues and labor shortages continue to impact the pace of rebuilding. Why it matters. The progress of the homeowner reconstruction program is a direct measure of the U.S. Virgin Islands recovery and its ability to provide stable housing for residents still affected by past disasters. The Virgin Islands Police Department has announced the arrest of a 27-year-old male in connection with a recent attempted murder case. According to police reports, Ajani Pori was taken into custody on Sunday following the execution of search and arrest warrants by the Criminal Investigation Bureau and the Special Operations Bureau. The arrest stems from a shooting incident that occurred in March, which left one individual seriously injured. The investigation has been ongoing since the incident, with detectives gathering evidence and witness statements that ultimately led them to identify Pori as a suspect. The successful apprehension underscores the collaborative efforts of different units within the police department to address violent crime in the territory. Pori is now facing charges of attempted murder, assault, and related firearm offenses. He is being held pending his advice of rights hearing, where he will be formally informed of the charges against him and bail conditions will be set. This arrest represents a significant development in a case that has been of concern to the community. While this arrest brings a measure of resolution to a specific case, it also fits into a larger, more troubling pattern of gun violence in the Virgin Islands. What are the underlying social and economic factors that contribute to these acts of violence? And what more can be done, beyond law enforcement action, to foster a culture of peace and conflict resolution within our communities? Each arrest is a step towards justice, but the ultimate goal must be the prevention of such crimes from occurring in the first place. Key points. 27-year-old Ajani Pori was arrested on Sunday in connection with attempted murder. The arrest is related to a shooting incident that took place in March. The arrest was a joint effort by the VIP's Criminal Investigation and Special Operations Bureaus. Pori is facing charges of attempted murder and illegal firearm possession. Why it matters. This arrest highlights the ongoing efforts of law enforcement to combat violent crime in the territory and bring perpetrators to justice, a key concern for community safety. The weather forecast for the U.S. Virgin Islands on this Monday, June 30, 2025, calls for partly cloudy conditions with continued warm and humid weather. In the Charlotte-Amalie area, the daytime high temperature is expected to reach approximately 86 degrees Fahrenheit, with a low of around 80 degrees overnight. Due to the high humidity, the feels-like temperature could climb to as high as 96 degrees during the peak of the day, so residents and visitors are advised to stay hydrated and take precautions against the heat. Winds will be blowing from the east at a brisk 20 miles per hour, which should provide some measure of relief. The ultraviolet, or UV, index is predicted to be very high, at a level of 10. This means that unprotected skin can burn in a very short amount of time. It is highly recommended to use sunscreen, wear protective clothing, and seek shade, especially during the late morning and early afternoon hours. No significant rainfall is anticipated for today. The consistent easterly trade winds are a hallmark of our Caribbean climate, but they can also bring periods of Saharan dust, which can affect air quality and be a concern for individuals with respiratory issues. How is the current dust level impacting our air quality, and what measures should sensitive groups be taking? While today's forecast seems pleasant enough, it's always wise to be aware of the more subtle environmental factors that can affect our well-being. Key points. Today's forecast is partly cloudy with a high of 86 degrees Fahrenheit and a low of 80 degrees Fahrenheit. The heat index will make it feel as hot as 96 degrees Fahrenheit. Easterly winds will be around 20 miles per hour. The UV index is very high at 10, necessitating sun protection. Why it matters. The daily weather forecast is crucial for residents and visitors in planning their activities, especially concerning health and safety in the tropical climate of the Virgin Islands. This date in history holds significance when reflecting on the journey of the U.S. Virgin Islands. While the official transfer day is celebrated in March, the end of June marks a point in the year when the implications of American governance, established in 1917, were solidifying. The United States purchased the then Danish West Indies from Denmark for $25 million, a strategic acquisition driven primarily by American concerns about German naval ambitions in the Caribbean during World War I. The transition from Danish to American rule brought about profound changes for the islands and their people. Initially, the territory was administered by the U.S. Navy, a period that lasted until 1931. This naval governance underscored the military rationale behind the purchase. It was not until the passage of the Organic Act of 1936 that a more formal civilian government structure began to take shape, laying the groundwork for greater local self-governance. U.S. citizenship was granted to the inhabitants of the Virgin Islands in 1927, a pivotal moment in defining their new national identity. The economic landscape of the islands also underwent a dramatic transformation. Under Danish rule, the sugar-based plantation economy had been in decline since the abolition of slavery in 1848. The American era ushered in new economic realities, eventually leading to the rise of tourism as the dominant industry in the latter half of the 20th century. This shift fundamentally altered the social and physical landscape of the islands. Reflecting on this history prompts important questions about the legacy of the transfer. How did the shift from a European colonial power to American territorial status shape the cultural and political identity of the people of the Virgin Islands? Has the economic development of the past century been equitable and sustainable? The story of the Virgin Islands is a complex tapestry of cultures and political forces, and understanding the impact of the 1917 transfer is essential to navigating the territory's present and future. Key points. The United States purchased the Danish West Indies in 1917 for strategic military reasons. The islands were under U.S. Navy administration until 1931. Inhabitants of the Virgin Islands were granted U.S. citizenship in 1927. The transfer led to a shift from a declining agricultural economy to one dominated by tourism. Why it matters. Understanding the historical context of the transfer from Denmark to the United States is fundamental to comprehending the unique political, economic, and cultural status of the U.S. Virgin Islands today. The District Court of the Virgin Islands has seen a series of sentencings in recent weeks, highlighting the ongoing efforts by the U.S. Attorney's Office to prosecute federal crimes in the territory. These cases span a range of offenses, from illegal firearms possession to drug trafficking, and reflect the diverse challenges facing law enforcement. In one notable case, Shabuka Banis of St. Croix was sentenced on June 20, 2025, for the unlawful possession of a machine gun, a serious offense that underscores the concerns about the proliferation of illegal automatic weapons in the community. In another matter, Yerel Marrero Reynoso, a Dominican national, received a 10-year prison sentence for his role in a drug trafficking operation. These sentences send a clear message that the federal justice system is actively working to hold individuals accountable for major crimes. The dockets have also included cases of illegal immigration, such as the sentencing of O'Malley Sanchez Taveras for alien smuggling. These cases often point to larger networks of human trafficking in the Caribbean region. The prosecution of these crimes is a critical component of maintaining law and order and ensuring the safety and security of the Virgin Islands. While these successful prosecutions are commendable, they also raise broader questions about crime prevention. What are the root causes that lead individuals to engage in such illicit activities? Are there sufficient educational and economic opportunities to provide viable alternatives to a life of crime? A robust justice system requires not only effective prosecution but also a strong societal commitment to addressing the underlying conditions that foster criminal behavior. Key points. Several individuals have been sentenced in the District Court of the Virgin Islands for federal crimes. Cases included illegal possession of a machine gun and large-scale drug trafficking. Sentences were also handed down for offenses related to human smuggling. The U.S. Attorney's Office is actively prosecuting a range of federal offenses. Why it matters. These court actions demonstrate the federal government's role in combating serious crime in the Virgin Islands and have significant implications for public safety and deterrence. The dream of owning a home in the U.S. Virgin Islands is becoming increasingly difficult to achieve for many residents, a reality that is prompting legislative scrutiny. The high cost of construction, the scarcity of affordable properties, and the challenges of securing financing are creating significant barriers to entry for prospective buyers. This issue is now a key focus for local lawmakers, who are seeking solutions to make homeownership more accessible. Testimony from real estate professionals, banking officials, and housing advocates paints a stark picture of the current market. The cost of building materials, many of which must be imported, drives the price of new construction to levels that are out of reach for the average family. Additionally, the existing housing stock is limited, leading to fierce competition for available properties and further inflating prices. Securing a mortgage can also be a formidable obstacle. Lenders often have stringent requirements, and many potential buyers struggle to come up with the necessary down payment and closing costs. Government-assisted loan programs exist, but their reach and effectiveness are often debated. The combination of these factors has created a housing crisis that affects a broad cross-section of the community, from young professionals to essential workers. As the legislature delves into this complex issue, the central question is what meaningful actions can be taken to turn the tide. Will a review of zoning and building codes unlock new possibilities for development? Could new financial incentives or public-private partnerships help to bridge the affordability gap? The stability and prosperity of our communities are intrinsically linked to the ability of our residents to put down roots, and finding a viable path to homeownership is a critical challenge that must be met. Key points. High construction costs and property prices are major obstacles to homeownership in the Virgin Islands. Securing affordable financing is a significant challenge for many residents. The issue is a focus of the Virgin Islands legislature, which is exploring potential solutions. A lack of affordable housing impacts a wide range of individuals and families in the area. Why it matters. The accessibility of homeownership is a critical indicator of economic health and social stability, and the current crisis has profound implications for the future of the Virgin Islands community. A legislative proposal currently under consideration in the Virgin Islands aims to bring about much-needed reforms to the oversight and operation of nursing homes and assisted living facilities. This bill addresses growing concerns within the community about the quality of care provided to the territory's elderly and vulnerable residents. If passed, the new law would establish clear and enforceable standards for these facilities, covering everything from staffing levels and medical care to resident rights and safety protocols. The proposed legislation is a response to anecdotal reports and official findings that have highlighted deficiencies in some local long-term care facilities. Advocates for the elderly have long called for stronger regulations and more frequent inspections to ensure that residents are treated with dignity and receive the care they need and deserve. The bill also seeks to address financial practices, placing limitations on charges and ensuring transparency in billing. The debate over this legislation brings to the forefront a sensitive and often overlooked issue. As our population ages, the demand for long-term care services will only increase. Ensuring that these services are of the highest quality is not just a matter of policy, but a moral imperative. The health and well-being of our elders are a reflection of our community's values. This legislative effort prompts a deeper conversation about how we care for our seniors. Are we investing enough in our long-term care infrastructure? And how can we better support dedicated individuals who work in this challenging field? The proposed bill is a significant step, but it must be part of a broader commitment to creating a comprehensive and compassionate system of elder care in the Virgin Islands. Key points. A new bill aims to establish higher standards for nursing homes and assisted living facilities in the Virgin Islands. The legislation would regulate staffing, medical care, resident rights, and financial practices. The proposal is a response to concerns about the quality of care for the elderly. The bill highlights the growing need for robust long-term care solutions in the territory. Why it matters. The quality of care for the elderly is a critical social issue, and this legislation could have a profound impact on the health, safety, and dignity of thousands of residents in the Virgin Islands. An urgent environmental and public health issue is gaining attention in the Virgin Islands: the discharge of inadequately treated wastewater and brine into our coastal waters and public spaces. This practice, often a result of an aging and overburdened infrastructure, poses a significant threat to our fragile marine ecosystems and the well-being of our community. Lawmakers and environmental agencies are now being pressed to find effective and lasting solutions. The direct release of nutrient-rich wastewater can lead to a host of problems, including algal blooms that smother coral reefs and deplete oxygen in the water, creating dead zones where marine life cannot survive. Brine discharge, a byproduct of desalination processes, can drastically increase the salinity of localized areas, harming marine organisms that are not adapted to such conditions. Beyond environmental damage, there is a serious risk to public health from contact with contaminated water. Addressing this challenge is a complex and costly undertaking. It requires a significant investment in upgrading and expanding our wastewater treatment facilities, as well as the implementation of more advanced and environmentally friendly technologies. It also necessitates a comprehensive approach to water management across the territory, from individual septic systems to large-scale industrial and municipal operations. This issue forces us to confront the true cost of our development and consumption patterns. For decades, the health of our bays and oceans has been a secondary consideration, but we are now seeing the consequences of that neglect. What will it take to shift our priorities and make the necessary investments to protect these vital natural resources for future generations? The beauty of our waters is the bedrock of our tourism economy and our quality of life. Failing to protect it is a risk we can no longer afford to take. Key points. The discharge of poorly treated wastewater and brine is a significant environmental threat in the Virgin Islands. This pollution can damage coral reefs, harm marine life, and pose public health risks. Addressing the problem requires major investments in infrastructure and technology. There is growing pressure on the government to take decisive action to protect the territory's coastal environment. Why it matters. The health of the marine environment is inextricably linked to the economic and social well-being of the U.S. Virgin Islands, making the issue of water pollution a critical priority.